Hello and welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator video. Are you interested in using AI ATC within Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 or 2024? Well, this video is going to help you get started. In this video, we're going to be using BeyondATC, which is a powerful, amazing AI ATC add-on for Microsoft Flight Sim. And to start off with, you will need to have a SimBrief account set up. So to do that, go to simbrief.com, set up an account, then you'll be able to jump into the SimBrief program here, or the website. What to do is you click on Start a New Flight, and now you're going to enter in your airline code. So if you don't know the airline code, pretty simple. Go on Google, type in, for example, Delta, type in Delta ACAO, and it will provide you the code. In this case, Delta is DAL. For this flight, we're going to be using American Airline, which is UAL. So we'll click on that. We're going to enter our flight number, 516. This is just a made-up number. Well, now, in this flight, we're going to be departing from Fargo, North Dakota on a short hop to Minneapolis. From there, you choose your aircraft type. We're going to be using a Boeing 737 MAX. And I'm going to use a profile of the iFly, and then you're going to generate that flight. Once you generate that flight, you can then jump in to BeyondATC. So here is BeyondATC. If you've never used it before, very simple program. You're going to enter in your SimBrief pilot ID from the simbrief.com website. Once you do that, all you have to do is hit fly. Obviously, before you do that, make sure you scroll on down and you set yourself a toggle for the push to talk. And then if you want to, a fire action 1. This is going to let the AI talk to AI within BeyondATC. So I do recommend setting those two right away. After doing that, you click the little fly button and you move your little SimBrief, your BeyondATC onto the side. Because at this point, now everything's going to be done within the aircraft itself. You can definitely use BeyondATC if you'd like to click some buttons, but for immersion, it's recommended that you use the aircraft itself. So we'll get started when we are ready for our first step with BeyondATC within the plane. All right, so we are all set up here in the beautiful Boeing 737 MAX. We are now ready to get our weather information. This is the first step before you even speak to ATC. To do so, if you don't know how to, you're going to find the ATIS information here. So in Fargo, which is the airport we are currently, or located right here at the ramp, our ATIS is 124.5. So we're going to swing on down here to our, get a camera here, to our radios and put in 124.5 using a dial here. So I have that preset, and then once we do that, we're going to start hearing some voices.
Airport information, Quebec. 1512 Zulu. Wind tree 45 at 16. Visibility 10. Ceiling 1700 overcast. Temperature 02. Dew point -02. Altimeter tree 024. Landing and departing runways 27, tree 1, tree 6. Advise on initial contact you have information, Quebec.
So we're going to switch over to our clearance radio. So we look back at the charts here. Clearance is 121.9. It's the same frequency as ground, so we won't have to switch at that point. We're going to stay on clearance. So for the rest of this video, I will not be using the in-game radio panel here, as I do use a Stream Deck for my radio tuning. Highly recommended if you want even more immersion within the flight sim itself. Okay, so we are now on the clearance radio. It is time to request our clearance information. You're going to see me refer to the checklist that I made for BeyondATC and using it to communicate with ATC within the software itself. Now this is more of a guidance, isn't a direct one-for-one, but by using these key phrases with the checklist, it will make your life a lot easier when you first get started within ATC. Okay, so the first thing is we need to say clearance. So in this case, it's going to be Fargo clearance. What our call sign is, we are United 516. We are ready for our IFR clearance 2. We're going to Minneapolis. That's it. So we're going to say clearance, United 516, ready for IFR clearance to Minneapolis. Done. Now, obviously you can add in the Fargo clearance or whatever departure airport you're at. It's not 100% necessary though, because, well, obviously you're on the ground there at that airport. But, so, up to you. Alright, so, I'm going to push to talk, and let's see how this goes. Fargo clearance, United 516, ready for IFR clearance to Minneapolis.
United 516 Fargo clearance, cleared to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Radar vectors wind, then as filed. Maintain 5,000, expect flight level 270, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 120.4, squawk 6104.
So I'm going to read back what they said, and then we'll go into it a little bit further right after. Clear to Minneapolis, radar vectors wind, then is filed. Maintain 5,000, expect flight level 270, departure on 120.4, squawk 6104, United 516.
United 516, read back correct. Contact tower 133.8 when ready for push or start.
Tower on 133.8, United 516. Okay, so let's bring on over BeyondATC really quick so you can see a visual reference of what I'm referring to. So on the screen you're going to see, here's what they said to me. What we need to do is read back that information. And you don't have to read everything word for word as long as you get exactly what they need. Sorry, give them exactly what they need. So in this case, we are talking to Fargo clearance. So we are cleared to Minneapolis, radar vectors wind, then as filed. We're going to maintain 5,000 feet. We're expecting flight level 270. You don't have to put in the 10 minutes after departure. Departure on 120.4, that's what we're going to switch to once they tell us to switch to departure. We're squawking 6104. So I read that back to them. The second call was, the information was correct. It's now telling us to contact tower 133.8 when we are ready. That's it. So move that onto the side. And we're going to put in our squawk information. So down here at the panel, we're going to simply type in squawking of 6104, just like that. And I'm also going to put in my COM2, the departure frequency. So 120.4. Again, I'm using my Stream Deck, so you see it changed here, 120.4. This is just a nice reference that when you're taxiing, you can switch that over when you get over the tower. And I'll explain that a little bit further once we get in. Okay, so next it said 5,000, so I'm going to put in 5,000 for my departure altitude, and I have that all set. Okay, I am ready for push and start at this point, so we're going to switch on over to, see, tower. It says 133 and 8, so it doesn't want us on ground, so we're on to tower frequency now, and for departure, we're going to go ahead and put in there. So in our checklist it says ground. Every airport, depending on the size of it, will change. Some will be ground, some will be tower, some will be center. So depending on who you're talking to is when you're going to use who you're speaking to start off with. So in this case, we're talking to Fargo Tower. Fargo Tower, United 516, ready for pushback and engine start.
United 516, Fargo Tower, pushback and engine start approved. Face east.
Face east, United 516. And just like that, we give them our instructions that we're ready for pushback and engine start, and then they told us we're cleared. The second one, we're going to repeat what direction we're going to be facing. So I'm going to go ahead and push back, get our engine started, and then we'll pick up the video when we're ready to taxi. Alright, welcome back. We are ready to taxi out of Fargo here. So let's go ahead and contact Fargo Tower and get our taxi clearance. So on our cheat sheet it says we're going to say ground call sign ready for taxi clearance. In this case we're speaking to tower. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Fargo Tower, United 516, ready for taxi clearance.
United 516, runway 36 taxi via Tango Alpha. Hold short runway 31.
Taxi runway 36 via Tango Alpha, hold short 31, United 516. Alright, so we had instructions there. Again, we read back exactly where we need to. They said we're going to taxi to runway 36 via Tango Alpha, hold short 31, and we read back exactly what they requested. Now, looking at our cheat sheet here for our taxiing, we are currently here. We're going to go Tango Alpha, and we're going to hold short before we cross this runway. So we can slow down, and then in theory, once we get close enough to it, it will tell us that we are clear to cross. Alright, so we're approaching 3.6, or sorry, 3.1. If we slow down a little bit here, BeyondATC should catch up to us.
United 516, cross runway 31 at Alpha. Continue taxi via Alpha, Alpha 4.
Cross runway 31 at Alpha, continue taxi via Alpha, Alpha 4, United 516. Alright, so just like that. Now, the biggest tip I can give you is enunciate your words as best as you can. It does a really good job at understanding what you're saying, but sometimes if you're not clear in the words, which I personally have a problem with, it will not understand that word. So you don't have to talk slow per se, but enunciate your words very cautiously. Alright, here we are, Alpha 4. We're going to hold short, and we should get clearance here, or we should be asking for clearance once we are holding short at runway 36.
36.
So before you get to 36, if you're at a bigger airport, let's say like Miami, it would tell you to switch from ground to tower and give you the tower frequency. So keep in mind, again, different airports will react a little bit differently than one another. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, looking at a cheat sheet, it says tower call sign where we're holding short. We're holding short runway 36, and we're going to say we're ready to go. So, simple like that. Fargo Tower, United 516, holding short runway 36, ready to go.
United 516, Fargo Tower, wind 345 at 16, fly runway heading, runway 36, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 36, cleared for takeoff, United 516. Okay, so we don't have to read back every single little bit of that wording, as long as they know that we know we're cleared for takeoff. So remember I told you earlier about that departure frequency? We have it here, 120.4. We're going to put over here on standby, 120.4. And now I'm using my Stream Deck again, so that I have that. So now when I'm ready to switch over to departure, all I have to do is hit that little button, or on my Stream Deck, just tap the little button on there. So it makes it a lot easier when departing, so you can manage the comms, manage the plane. Alright, so we're clear for immediate takeoff here.
6.
Now, BeyondATC does have traffic if you are on the supporters pack. I disabled it for this video.
On runway 36.
Alright, we'll get our engine spooled up, and then we'll be departing. On departure, we're going to fly runway heading until they tell us otherwise.
V1.
Alright, positive rate of climb, gears going up. And now we're cleared up to 5,000 feet, maintaining runway heading.
United 516, contact Fargo departure, have a good one.
Over to departure, United 516. Alright, so we made our call. Switching over to departure. Departure, United 516, passing 2,500, climbing 5,000.
United 516, Fargo departure, radar contact climb. Maintain 13,000 feet, altimeter 3024.
13,000, United 516. So again,
United 516, turn right, heading 120. Expect further clearance in about 28 miles.
right heading 120, United 516. Alright, so lots of stuff going on. We'll go ahead and switch on over to 120 now. So again, you are simply repeating the necessary information back to the controller. And for the sake of ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and go to autopilot. And now autopilot's bringing me on over to 120. Okay, so what do we have there? So on departure, it told us to contact departure. Tower gave us handoff to departure. We told them, yep, we're going to departure. We got onto departure, and we told them, departure, United 516, where we currently were with altitude, and where we're climbing to. They said, we have you. Climb up to 13,000. We said, you got it.
United 516, turn right, heading 125.
Right heading 125, United 516. Then they told us to turn to heading 120. We told them, yep, got it, 120. And now they just told us 125. So now we're being vectored onto our course to wind. And they told us that we would expect further clearance at about 28 miles. So a lot of what you're going to realize with ATC
United
is that
516, contact Minneapolis Center 134.75. Have a good day.
center on 134.75, United 516. Alright, so we're going to switch on over to center. What you're going to realize is that with ATC, it's a lot of just repeating back the necessary information. So now we're over to center. Minneapolis Center, United 516, passing 11,000, climbing 13,000.
United 516, Minneapolis Center, good day. Climb and maintain flight level 270.
Flight level 270, United 516. Okay, and one thing that makes things really, really easier when you're talking to ATC is having physical panels. So sure, you can use a little knob here to turn things, but I have a WinWing FCU, which is of course for the Airbus, but I use it for my Boeing.
United 516, Minneapolis Center, expect Bainey Tree, runway 30 left.
Expect Bainey 3, runway 30 left, United 516. So, what is that all about, you're asking? Well, pretty simple stuff. So if we look at our charts here, I'm going to go back one. And if we go into Minneapolis, we are expecting the Bainey 3 arrival. So, based on our SimBrief profile, SimBrief gave us a route. The first waypoint is going to be wind, but the arrival is going to be Bainey 3. So we are expecting the Bainey 3 arrival, which is right here. So this is our expected flight plan coming into Minneapolis.
United
You see all these
516,
routes here?
contact Minneapolis Center 126.1.
So we're going to switch on over to 126.1. Over to center 126.1, United 516. And let's go and switch on over. Minneapolis Center, United 516, passing 16,000, climbing flight level 270.
United 516, Minneapolis Center, roger.
So we have wind right here. We're going to intercept wind, we're going to intercept Bainey, and then we're going to be on to the arrival. And within this little arrival here, we're going to notice there are altitude restrictions. So they're going to clear us for the arrival, and then we're going to automatically know what altitudes we should be in between and what we should be at when we get closer into the landing runway 30. 30 left to be precise. Alright, so as we climb here, we're getting close to standard pressure. And we're going to switch that on over. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of SimBrief at this point. And if we zoom out of the map here, we're looking pretty good. I expect direct really, really soon. It's going to say something like direct to wind.
United 516, cleared direct wind. Resume own navigation.
Direct to wind, resume own navigation, United 516. Alright, just like that, we can now switch on over to LNAV. And then the plane will intercept this path here for the arrival and be on wind. So for the rest of this flight, we may get switched over to different centers. It's going to be just like we have been doing. It's going to say switch over to center, blah, blah, blah. We're going to switch over to that center, and then we're going to say what? We're going to say center, United 516, and we're going to see where we currently are in terms of altitude. Now, keep this in mind. Once you passed altitude of 18,000, you need to switch over to saying flight level. Okay, once you get under 180, you can switch back down. So, for example, if you're at 1,600 feet, you're just going to say 1,006. You're going to say 16,000. Okay. If you are at 180, so 8,000 feet, 18,000, you're going to switch over to flight level 180 or whatever altitude that is, right? So right now we're just passing flight level 222. We're climbing to 270. Gotcha? All right, so we'll pick up the flight here once we get closer into Minneapolis.
Descend via Bainey 3 arrival, Minneapolis, St. Paul, landing runway 30 left, altimeter 3008.
Descend via Bainey 3 arrival, landing runway 30 left, United 516. Alright, so we have our clearance to start our descent.
516, contact Minneapolis Center 125.5, have a good day.
Minneapolis Center 125.5, United 516. Alright, so over to Center 1255. Minneapolis Center, United 516, flight level 270, descending via Bainey 3.
United 516, Minneapolis Center, roger.
Alright, so we have our clearance to descend. Our computer's programmed to start top descent about there, right? So if you look at our charts again, our restrictions are going to be 7,000, it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and program 7,000s for our initial descent altitude. We won't go any lower than 7,000. And now the system is programmed to maintain those altitudes. So once we hit here, we're going to be at flight level 200, Bainey 15, Lucy 11, and then so on. But we won't go any lower than 7,000. And now we're on our descent into Minneapolis.
United 516, contact Minneapolis, approach 125.75, have a good one.
Minneapolis approach on 125.75, United 516. Alright, so we're going to switch over to approach 125.75. And now that it's in COM 1, we're also going to have to get our weather information. So switch over to the little tablet here. The ATIS for our arrival is going to be 13535. So we're going to go ahead and type in 13535 to get our weather information.
04, 2.902, altimeter 3008, landing runway 30 right, 30 left, 35, departing runway 30 right, 30 left. Advise on initial contact, you have information whiskey.
Alright, information whiskey is what we will have on board, so we're going to go ahead and contact approach. Again, as we've always been doing, use that check list to make it a little bit easier. Minneapolis approach, United 516 with information whiskey. We're at flight, 15,000, descending via Bainey 3.
United 516 Minneapolis approach, altimeter 3008. Expect the visual approach, runway 30 left.
Expect the visual 30 left, United 516. Okay, so as you see, I fumbled a little bit there. That's completely fine as long as you get the information to them and they understand what you're trying to speak to them. So I kind of fumbled the altitude numbers a little bit. Again, perfectly fine, but they got where I currently am with altitude, where I'm descending, and with the weather information. So everything's correct. And now we're going to be on approach here into Minneapolis. As we start making our approach here into Minneapolis, let's go and take a look at the charts real quick. Alright, so we are getting really close to our arrival. We are getting close to GEP, which is a waypoint there in Minneapolis. And there are altitude restrictions as we have in here, so 7,000 there. But we're going to be going towards this way, right? This is our path for the arrival. And if you see here, there's these numbers, 280, 280. Those are the altitude restrictions, so we can't go any lower than 280. Now, the plane is set up to not go any lower than what it's saying for these altitudes, okay? So we're going to go ahead and program 2800 in our altitude because the plane will not go any lower than that. if we look a little further down here, it's going to tell us what we're going to be doing. So the Sanger on track for heading 159 to GEP, which is the VOR. Then we're going to be tracking 156. Okay. So from here, we have our heading. From there, we have our heading. And we're going to keep following this path into the arrival. And then it says here, expect radar vectors to final approach course. So after Jenny, right here is when they're going to vector us in for the arrival. So we're going to have us swing up to the north and then come on in for the arrival. Okay? So again, we can go ahead and put an altitude of 2800. Again, the plane will not go any lower than what is programmed in this current restrictions of VNAV. Another thing I want to also make aware is that you do not have to fly just airliners with BeyondATC and ATC in general, because it is available for smaller planes as well. Now, the only thing that is currently available with BeyondATC when it comes to AIATC is IFRs. So you will not be able to get airspaces, which you would be able to do with VFRs. That's currently not available with BeyondATC. But it is still very much, you can hop into any aircraft you like within Microsoft Flight Sim and do an ATC flight with BeyondATC. Alright, as we're getting really close now to our arrival, let's go ahead and take a look at the airport charts. So, we're going to go back one. Here's the ILS. So now we do know that we will be getting a vector into the visual for that runway, so we're going to keep an eye on that one. The other thing I want to look at now is the airport information. So we're going to be landing runway 30 left, which is right here. And we're likely going to try to exit Mike here. And depending on which runway they decide to, or which terminal they decide to give us, is our direction of exiting. So either left or right. I'm expecting right to go to Terminal 1 here. So we're going to keep a really tight eye on that information as we get closer into Minneapolis. We are now decelerating to 210 knots. And making our final turn here before we get vectors to final. Now again, at Jenny we're expecting the vectors to the final. And it's a good time now. If you wanted to, you can go ahead and start making that turn yourself in the heading mode. Now, we don't know exactly what heading we're going to get, but we do know what we're expecting. So we're going to keep on making our descent here. And we are expecting a visual approach, so we can go ahead and manually start making our descent. We'll go ahead and descend about 1,000 now. Again, this is up to pilot's discretion, and we're also trying to follow our nav there. Thing is, you don't want to be too high on the approach, so you need to know what they say. They tell you. So visual or a ILS approach will be handled a little bit differently, because you need to make sure you intercept the localizer at a certain altitude. Now, another thing to keep in mind is I am not a professional pilot. This is all sim-based stuff as we are flying here today. And these are things I've learned, tips and tricks throughout my trade here within Microsoft Flight Sim. So nothing's going to be 100% to real world, but it's the best way to get going easily with BeyondATC and Microsoft Flight Sim.
United 516, leave JJ&I heading 095. Expect radar vectors for visual approach, runway 30 left.
Leave Jenny heading 095, United 516. Alright, so they want 095. I'm going to go ahead and pop that in there. So a little off to the side there, to the left. And I'm going to go ahead and put in an altitude of 4,000 for a hold at this point, because over here, this waypoint is 4,000. That's the entry point. So we want to make sure we're not any lower than that.
United 516, turn left, heading tree 40. Descend and maintain 4,000 vectors for the approach.
Left heading 340, descend and maintain 4,000, United 516. Alright, so 340.
United 516, turn left, heading tree 45. Intercept the tree 0 left localizer. Descend and maintain 2,700 feet.
Left heading 345, descend and maintain 2,700, United 516. Alright, so we're going to bring up that descent rate a little bit more, because we don't need to be going that far down that fast. But we have our interception here now, so it told us to turn to heading 340. We're going to descend and maintain 2,700. The restriction here is 3,000, so all is looking pretty good here. We're going to intercept
United
the...
516, airport is at your 10 o'clock, 16 miles. Report the field in sight.
Do we have the field? We have the field. We have the field in sight, United 516.
United 516, cleared visual approach runway tree 0 left.
Cleared for the visual, 30 left, United 516. Alright, so we are cleared for the visual here into Minneapolis. Again, we're just reading back the very basic information that they are expecting from us. So, all's looking pretty good here. We're going to intercept the localizer. I'm going to go ahead and turn our direction course just a little bit more towards Narco up here. I'm also going to reduce our descent rate a little bit. Okay, so we are about 12 nautical miles from the airport. I'm going to go ahead and arm the localizer. And let's start bringing down our flaps. Once we intercept the localizer here at Minneapolis, we're going to get switched over to the tower. And then we're going to let them know what we're doing. Bring back our speed a little bit, 180. Flaps are 5.
2,500.
United 516, contact Minneapolis Tower 126.7.
Over the tower, 126.7, United 516. Alright, over the tower now. So, on tower, we're going to tell them what we're doing, right? We don't need to tell them the altitude, we're just going to tell them what we're expecting to do. So, such as this. Minneapolis Tower, United 516 on the visual, 30 left.
United 516, Minneapolis Tower, wind 320 at 14, gust 29er. Runway 30 left, cleared to land.
30 left, cleared to land, United 516. Alright, so we're on the localizer. We're going to go ahead and arm the glide slope next. And now this is a visual arrival, so we don't have to use ILS. But it's always nice to have a backup plan coming into any airport. Okay, all looking great there. Landing gear coming down. Speeds are looking pretty good. Now once we get to about 5 miles finals, and we'll start bringing back that speed even more, 180 for now to make sure we are not messing up traffic. Of course, we don't have traffic on for this flight. And now we're a little bit low right now. So as you can see, a little ball here is slowly moving down. It's going to intercept the glide slope, which it just did. Perfect. And we're about 5 mile final, so let's go ahead and reduce that speed to 160. Flaps are 25. And full flaps at 30. Reduce that speed 150. Minneapolis is always a beautiful, beautiful airport to come into. I've done this flight so many times. Alright, we're also going to set up for missed approach now. So looking at our chart real quick, missed approach, we're going to go ahead and fly this heading and in 3,000 feet. So we have that all programmed. In Minneapolis, it's always easy to come in high or come in low because the trees and water really throw off your visual
Minimum
aspect here.
1,000.
All right, so we're at 1,000. AP's off. Captain's got the plane. Go ahead and trim up a little bit. I'm going to follow those pappies the best I can. Got some wind going to fight us today, so this will make the approach even easier, even more difficult. Don't grade me on my landing. This is all about ATC. So do keep that in mind.
Approaching 30 left.
500.
We're off course just a little bit. Wind's pushing us over. A little high on the approach. Okay, back on the glide slope.
500. 400. 300.
Ooh, wind's really pushing us around.
200. 100.
A little off the center line. We're trying to get back on
Light
it.
slope.
Okay, all looking good.
50. 40.
Using a little bit of
Light
rudder.
slope. 20. 10.
A little floating. Get this plane down to the ground. There we go. And nose touching down. Reverse is going to come out. Not too shabby. Alright, reverse is going to be stowed. And we're going to slow this plane down. And we're going to see what ATC tells us.
United 516, exit next available taxiway.
Exit next available taxiway, United 516. Alright, so we're going to exit here at Delta. Landing lights coming off. And we're going to slow down this little bird here. And we're going to get away from the runway.
United 516, contact ground 121.9er. Have
And
a
switch
good
over
one.
to ground. Ground on 121.9er, United 516. Alright, so 121 and a 9er. Now, the cool thing about BeyondATC, I'll bring it up here, is it tells us a gate to go to Echo 10 Alpha. So, really, really cool. So now all we have to do is say, switch over to ground, and say, our cheat sheet here. Minneapolis ground, United 516 on taxiway Delta. Would like to taxi to gate Echo 10 Alpha.
United 516, welcome to Minneapolis St. Paul Airport, gate Echo 10 Alpha taxi via Delta, Quebec.
Gate Alpha, or sorry, Echo 10 Alpha, Delta, Quebec, United 516. Alright, and just like that, we're going to head over to our gate. I do appreciate everyone who has watched this video. I do hope it's helped you a little bit with using ATC within BeyondATC and Microsoft Flight Sim. It's one of the really coolest immersion additions that you can have for Flight Sim in general, and it does take some learning. It really, really does. But once you get the hang of it, it is something really, really difficult to not use as you continue flying within Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm not going to let you watch me taxi to the gate, because that's always going to be a boring part, but it does have the taxiways all correct for the most part within BeyondATC. So here we are in Delta, and then over to Quebec, and then we're going to be finding gate Echo 10 Alpha. So again, thanks everyone for watching. Leave me a comment down below if this helped you out, or if you have any additional tips and tricks for anyone coming into ATC within Microsoft Flight Sim. Thanks for watching again, and take care.